Hello, we are Team Data Whisperers, and for our final project, we decided to analyze crime data, especially crime data related to Chicago. We felt like there was some interesting questions we could ask around crime, and that's something that really can affect us all. So let's get started. The members of Team Data Whisperers are Sarah, Damien, Julie, and myself, Chris. Our goal here is to basically just play around and analyze different methods, Hadoop methods for analyzing data sets. For this final project, we use a combination of Spark, Spark SQL, Hive, and machine learning library. We analyze crime data over time, specifically for Chicago. We also looked into different correlations which came with the crime data, specifically related to income and weather, though there are other correlations we looked at. And one specific thing we looked at with machine learning was whether we can predict if an arrest will happen given a specific incident report. Here's the different data sources we used. To give a general overview, this is the total crime data count for the Chicago area over time. Now you can definitely see a downward trend here. Which is surprising and rather encouraging how dramatic that trend was. Now the blue bar that you see is also the homicides in the Chicago area, which actually are around 20% of the total incident reports, the police incident reports, which is quite high. If you think about that, that's basically 1 in 5 of the incident reports are related to a homicide, or is an actual homicide. Off to the right, I just wanted to graph the change in homicides over time based on the percentage of the crime total. Get a bit of a bull shape there, but really it hovers around 20%. Here's the Spark code that I used. Another correlation that we looked at was the correlation between crime and income within a specific neighborhood. We used these data sets listed here, and we came up with this graph. If you'll notice that on the crime is the highest in neighborhoods which have the lowest income and the highest income, whereas the kind of the lowest crime rate is really in the mid-level, which I found rather interesting. So based on this information, if you're interested in owning a home or living in a neighborhood with the lowest crime rate, you might want to look at the mid-level income neighborhoods. Here's a list of the best and worst neighborhoods within the Chicago area. One thing that's really interesting about this chart is, or this table, is the difference in the crime rate by population. There's a difference between the worst and the highest by a factor of 10 or more, which I found rather surprising. Here's the Spark SQL code that we used if you're interested. Another correlation we looked into was between precipitation and crime. Basically, we just pulled in another data set for precipitation and compared it to our crime data and came up with this graph. Basically, it's a little bit hard to see from this graph, but basically we found very little correlation between, or not a lot of correlation between whether more crime was happening during whether it's raining or not. And here's the Hadoop Hive code that we used to look into that. Yet another correlation was between crime and the month of the year. I found this kind of not surprising, but interesting to look at. That, of course, there's more crime during summer months than there are in the winter. And that's especially unsurprising given how cold I hear that gets in Chicago. So I guess criminals don't like to do a lot of crime in the winter months when it's cold. Now finally we looked into machine learning, and one of the things we tried to do was see if we could predict whether an arrest was going to happen. Given various fields. And we use the ML library to do that. One of the things the ML library did was create this correlation table which we found very interesting. And it came up with different correlations between different fields. Now, some of the fields were highly correlated. So some of those fields were year, month, beat, time of day, and whether crime was domestic, the community area, and location. And some were not quite so predictive of an arrest. Using this library, we came up with this decision tree. And from this decision tree, we were able to basically predict 90% with 90% accuracy whether an arrest was going to take place or not, which is, yeah, pretty good. It's pretty surprising we came up with that. Now, in summary, we've analyzed the crime data. We've discovered that there was a definite downward trend in police incidents between 2001 and the present. There was a strong correlation between between crime, income, and the month of the year. And not a lot of correlation with precipitation. And we're also able to have a strong ability to predict whether an arrest was going to take place, and within about a 90% factor there. And really, we've just scratched the surface. There's lots of interesting questions we can ask for related to crime, and there are a lot of different other data sets we can pull in to compare. So really, this was just an interesting first step in analyzing this. Anyway, we'd like to thank you for your time and have a great day.